Hey everyone, it is Savannah, and welcome back to Signature Ways, where we interview top agents and their businesses to find out their signature way of doing business. And today I am so excited for who we have. His name is Jeremy, and let me tell you, talk about commercial, but also residential, and also living a life by his design. He has figured out exactly what he needs to do for his business so he can live his huge life and yet has what many people look for, balance. So, without further ado, hello.
Hello.
So, kind of give us a background of how you got into real estate and why commercial.
Um, so I worked for a Fortune 500 company for about 18 years, and I had worked my way up into a senior level management position. And it had gotten to a point in that career to where there was some turmoil, and I received a severance package. At that point in time, I decided I did not want to work for corporate America anymore. And so I started looking at businesses that had the lowest startup costs there where I could actually be the true business owner and not be involved with like a franchise and things like that. And so I jumped into real estate when I was 35, and that was in 2015. So that's how everything got started.
Awesome. And tell me, how did you kind of end up into commercial?
It was the background that I had. So when I first got into real estate, I never wanted to be the type of agent that was out chasing business. I wanted an organic business. So I used my network that I had created from my 18 years of corporate experience to do business to business sales for a while. And while I was doing that and I was offsetting any income I wasn't producing in real estate, I was contemplating how I could transfer my knowledge from my previous industry into the industry that I'd chosen. And with the experience I had in corporate America, commercial real estate made the most sense.
Awesome. So, tell me a little bit about your business today, what that looks like, and the structure that you've built around it.
So the primary way that my career started was residential, as most agents. I mean, you work with the people you know, the people that trust you in your sphere of influence. And so that's kind of how I cut my teeth in the industry, was working residential and building a base of business that was going to be long-time clients. I didn't want just quick deals. I didn't want people that were going to just be part of a machine. I wanted people to become part of my business so that they would refer me out and I could truly create that organic business. When I first got in, I saw other agents that kind of operated in different fashions. Everybody has the thing that works for them. But I was really drawn to the agents that were an organic based business, and that's what I always wanted to do. So it just kind of innately started happening to where I would just not worry about income. That's a huge part of it, is people get too worried about income in our industry, and that's why we have an 80% failure rate. So I was worried about creating something that I knew could last me for a long period of time and be a base and a support structure for the life I wanted.
And can you talk to me kind of about building that business organically and kind of either the models or the systems that went around that into building that longevity?
It's belly to belly contact. Our businesses revolves around people. And the more people you're in front of and the more relationships you create that people know and trust you, which is my motto for my business, is trust isn't given, it's earned. So that was something I always believed in from the very foundation of my corporate career to where I'm at now. That was always kind of a driving thing. And so just creating that trust and being a resource for people and letting them know that when they did run into a situation revolving around the industry I was in, that they could reach out to me and I would be there to answer whatever questions, assist, free consultations, whatever it was, because these are people I know. These aren't just people that I run into. I develop that relationship with them. So, I mean, that's kind of how I've always structured an organic business. And that's what my true belief behind an organic business is you want people that know and trust you to refer you. And you want to keep earning that trust by doing the best job you can possibly do every time you're in a transaction, not just chase a paycheck.
I think it's so true about the paycheck because I think they call it commission breath. And
Mhm.
sometimes clients clearly are like, okay, they're out for their interest and not mine. And yet especially in Colorado, if you, read the documents, we have, depending how you're representing your client, depends on whose interest you actually have to hold. So I love that you did the belly to belly. Tell me, because there's a lot of agents when they're building a business like that run these, crazy touch programs where they're like, okay, so on their birthday you do this, and on their home anniversary you do this, and then on their dog's birthday you do this, and if they have a kid, this is what you send. Like they go overboard, and then they're trying to remember all these things. Is it complicated like that, or have you simplified it?
I'm unique. I don't run a CRM. And it's one of those things to where what you're talking about is people that run touch programs through a customer relationship management program, a CRM. And that's how they do all of their touches. I have a version of that I do, but it's just become innately who I am now. It's not something to where I'm constantly prompted that, oh, it's Savannah's birthday today, I need to reach out. It's just developing pure relationships with these people that it's just become who I am, not what I do, if that makes sense. So if
Yeah.
I see a birthday on Facebook, I don't just put on there, I don't just reach out via Facebook. I'll send a personalized text. Hey, this is genuine conversation. This is a genuine communication to you and me. Hey, it is your birthday. Congratulations. What are you doing today? How's things going? And it's not about me trying to make myself a part of the business per se of this is a system I have to run. It's about me kind of grooming myself to let the business be a part of who I am, which innately was who I was all along, but I've just put it on a little bit of a bigger scale. And so I just ensure that if there is something of significance or somebody's having some problems in life or whatever it is, that I'm there and I'm a support structure.
I love that. Awesome. So, talk to me. The second part you were kind of talking about was building a business that supports your life. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I remember one time I heard you speak about this and I was like, this is fascinating. Like, I wish especially newer agents heard this.
So, with the fact that I went through a corporate America, I don't know, inundation for 18 years of my life, I got lost in that. And so I had my life epiphany when I was 35. And I kind of mentioned that before. At that point in time, I realized that everything that I did in those 18 years was great. I learned a lot and it created a knowledge base that's very valuable for me. However, I had lost myself because I was chasing what I thought was what I wanted and needed in life by constantly trying to climb the ladder and make more money and everything else. When I hit that epiphany at 35, I took like a 6-month sabbatical and I dissected my life. And I realized that there's a lot more things that are appealing in life than the esteem from colleagues or the paycheck or the fancy tangible things. And so that's really when I got into real estate, what started driving that. And they have all these systems in real estate that they talk about time blocking, and they talk about all these different ways that you can structure your life to be the forefront of your business. To me, yeah, systems are good, but truly it's a mentality. You have to be able to know that at a certain point in time, okay, I'm putting this in front of that. I need to kind of step back and I need to reevaluate how I'm going to move forward. There is no magic system or magic pill or whatever it is that you can take to do that. It is a mindset, and when it comes to work, I've set parameters as I've gotten more experience in this business. My clients know that after 7 o'clock, you're not going to get a hold of me unless I'm already working for you and it's something we were doing prior. It's part of one of the very first conversations I have with them. If you get a hold of me on a Sunday and I don't respond, that's my day. If we're working together, great, but setting those boundaries with clients is important. Do I sometimes violate those boundaries? Yeah, it just depends what I have going on. But I try to stick to them as much as I can because that allows me to have the time for my own personal life. And when I set parameters around my year, I would love to say that every year I can control and this is when I'm going to make my money and this is when it's going to happen. But my passions in life revolve around being outside. So real estate's busy during the summer. I try not to work during the summer that's just my goal, and if I can do it, great. If I can't, I understand, but it's something that I strive to accomplish every year. And that just comes from as soon as the gates open in January of that year. I'm a very business oriented person where I think about fiscals. So my fiscal runs from January to January. So when my new business year starts, I hit the ground running. And I know that if I'm having to work 7 days a week and I'm having to work 12 hours a day, that I am doing that for a reason. And if I go through a 4 month stretch where I'm putting in those hours, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, because it's
Mhm.
very easy to get lost and stuck in that I have to work all the time to make my money, which we do. We're a commission based industry and we live off our savings, but it's just having that mindset to know when to plug in and when to unplug.
I think the unplug is so big because this industry, I just see so much burnout happen
Mhm.
and people running at every end. And, guilty last year was kind of running at every end. And yet, when you look up, it's like, okay, is that the most important thing? Or is your family or spending time with your dog and going hiking? Like, those are the kind of things that if you really enjoy doing, taking the time to actually step away and do that is so important to avoid burnout. And I think coming from corporate America, you've probably experienced a lot of
Mhm.
that as well.
I did. And my past life was 7 days a week, but that was not something to where I could carve out 2 to 3 months for myself. That was 365 days a year, responsibility, stress, and when you're younger, it's easier to deal with that stress. As you progress in your life, cortisol levels are a thing. You don't want that. You want to avoid that because your health is the only thing that you can protect that's going to give you the longevity you're looking for.
Yeah, no, agree. And what kind of tip would you give to agents when it comes to kind of that burnout? Because I think, some people might be here like, you don't work summers? That's crazy. Yet kind of explain to me what that does for you and your family personally, and any tips about protecting your time.
And so it kind of revolves not only around me wanting to be outside. My wife's a teacher. So when is she off? During the
Summer.
summer. And so that's when we plan our trips and our time together and everything like that. To avoid burnout, it's something to where you have to be in a position where you're comfortable. You cannot be uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, you're going to constantly be in a state of panic and anxiety. And I think a lot of people in our industry, and I'm not trying to judge, but they live outside of their means a lot. I come from a world where everything I did was expense control. So when I was in my previous life, I wanted the overhead that I had to be the lowest it could possibly be. And so that versus the sales mentality that we have in real estate, where in order to be able to solve my problems, I need to sell more. My mentality is, in order to solve my problems, I need to control my expenses and have a comfort level. Then I'm never in a state of anxiety or panic around I can no longer proceed forward in life without closing another deal. I think that's the biggest thing, and it's in any sales industry. I've done business to business sales before, and those are always structured around sell more. And from the very first time you get into a real estate office, they start telling you to set your goals. What are your metrics? How many units are you going to sell? Sell, 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 sell. I never looked at units. I always look at how much money do I need to make. I know exactly what I need to make in order to support my lifestyle. I know my minimum. When I hit that minimum, then I'm fine. And anything over that is great. Then we get to go on these vacations you see behind me. That's our travel wall. Life's about
That is awesome.
experiences. Life's about memories, and knowing your financials for your own personal life is key. Otherwise, you're just constantly chasing money and keeping your expenses and your overhead in control.
It, it does amaze me how many people don't realize the expenses that they have going out on a monthly basis, or don't have a P&L even for their business to know what their business is costing them. Um, and I know it might look a little bit different for you, but kind of any tricks around, especially like if you're a newer agent starting a business, what are costs that you think are healthy costs to be, you know, getting yourself out there? And for maybe more seasoned agents, what are things that maybe you think aren't necessary?
I think everybody gets wrapped up in lead gen and they pay for it. And I think that that's a terrible thing to pay for. I think that our business revolves around people, and people spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising and things of that nature to where they're really pushing themselves past their threshold trying to get a new client. They spend money chasing clients. Clients are gained through interaction and time, not through spending money. And I see a lot of new agents, they get in and they expect to be making a full income right out the gate, which if you do, great, more power to you. You did wonderful. However, the majority don't. And it's usually about year number 3 that they finally settle into making an income that's livable. So setting that clear expectations for themselves and not trying to constantly spend the money getting the next deal.
I like that. Awesome. So next question. So along with everything you do, you have built a really strong connection with your own neighborhood. So talk to me about that. Anything special that you guys do that helps you get to know all your neighbors? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, I live by a mailbox. They all walk by my driveway.
That's
I say
awesome.
hi. They need to borrow a ladder. I let them borrow a ladder. They need help with something at their house. I go over and help. It's being a good person. I mean, just getting to know the people around you. That's the key thing. It's nothing that I'm out farming my neighborhood. I think in my very first year, I think I went and knocked doors in my neighborhood, and it was the worst experience ever. I wouldn't ever do it again. But if you knock doors, like I said, not knocking on you, but for me, it wasn't right. So when they walk to the mailbox and I see them, I say, hi, how are you? What's going on? What have you guys been doing? And I keep falling back on this, but it's a relationship business, and my neighbors know me because I'm a good person and I help them when they need help. Now, do they also know what I do? I don't cram that I'm in real estate down their throats. I don't do door hangers. I don't do any of that stuff. But innately, you have a conversation with somebody. Oh, what do you do for a living? You ask them. And then what are they going to ask you back? Oh, I'm in
What do
real
you
estate.
do? Yeah.
Exactly right. And then from there, it's just a regular conversation. And what's the first thing they're going to ask you? How's the market? Do I have a pocketed objection handler for how's the market and scripted response? No, but I do enough real estate where I can give them a real life example. Oh, it's a buyer's market right now. Our inventory levels are high. Yes, everybody's worried about interest rates, just those things, and just being knowledgeable in your industry. Did I go to scripts when I first started? Yeah, I did, because I needed to be able to know the different things that I didn't know on how to have these conversations, because I had never talked about real estate before. So I learned a little bit there, but do I have a pocket full of objection handlers and scripts? No, I just have regular conversations with people. And when you get past the limbic part of the brain, which is the fight or flight, and they actually want to talk to you, you're going to have way more of a successful relationship having a conversation.
Love that. Okay, so next question. Running a business like yours takes a lot of focus. How do you, and I think this goes obviously back to what we were talking about just a little bit ago, how do you make sure your personal life and family do stay top priority, especially when, you have all these negotiations coming in and you do have a couple deals going? How are you keeping family top priority?
We live off an electronic calendar. Anything we do, if I'm working, my wife knows where I'm at. If she has something she wants to do with me, she puts it on my calendar. She knows that if we're going to schedule something together, 7 days in advance allows me to schedule around it. The beauty of real estate is we can control our own schedules. And if you prioritize scheduling your family first, and then when you're setting appointments or you're dealing with whatever, you know how to structure that. I don't lie to my clients. If they want a particular day and I already have something booked for my family, I'm honest. I'm not like, oh, I have another meeting scheduled. Sorry. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Me and my wife, we have plans to go wherever we're going that day, and I just schedule based upon that. I keep a 7-day window to where everything that we're doing in our personal life is already scheduled. And then I can schedule my business around.
Well, and I think part of that too, then, is if a client's going to be upset and frustrated that, you're like, oh, well, you're going to go spend time with your wife and not help me, probably gives you an indication if you want to work with that person.
And there is several times that there has been some separation and conversations around that, and it's not something to where I'm out there firing clients left and right, but I'm very, and I mean, you know this, and people in my industry know this, but I am very particular who I surround myself with. I surround myself with people that support me as a person, and that kind of revolves around my business too. We can't always choose every single one of our clients, I understand. But I want people that are good for me, not only as a business owner, but me as a person. You need to support just the general feelings and how I treat people and respect and everything like that. And if we do, we see eye to eye, and it works out well because I work very hard for my clients. I go above and beyond probably a lot of people in our industry when it comes for me working for my clients. And when they see that, they respect that, and they understand that they're getting top tier service from me. And if we have that commonality where we both respect each other's time, it works out great.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's firing clients. Yeah. It shouldn't be an everyday occurrence, but I think it's so important that once you get to a point in your business where you can be like, you know what? And partially too, because sometimes those clients suck you dry that you miss actually great opportunities because of that one client.
And that just gets back to the whole thing of chasing a paycheck. If you can't make a decision on whether this person's right for you and you have to have the paycheck because you're not comfortable, you're putting yourself in a situation to where your business isn't going to benefit you. It might benefit your bank account, but it's not going to benefit you as a person.
Exactly. I think one thing too to that is when you're sitting down for a buyer or listing consultation with people, even though they're interviewing you, you should be interviewing them and make sure you have your list of questions. And like you said, you set those expectations right up front with everybody. So if they're, going to be frustrated with that off the bat, then you're like, okay, is this a relationship I need to be in?
Right. And then, yeah, I mean, I've been guilty of working for people when I needed a paycheck in my earlier years that weren't the best for me. Yes, we all have.
Right.
There's no perfect scenario. Did I learn from that? Yes. Is every one of my deals perfect? No, but I try to make sure the majority are. And the
Yeah.
more I control that, the better off I am.
I love that. So going back to commercial then real quick. So a lot of times, we hear people be like, oh, okay, if you either do residential or you do commercial. And yet you're obviously fantastic at both. Kind of what was that transition and what is kind of different when it comes to commercial? So if there's someone out there that's like, I feel like commercial would be my bread and butter, like what are things that they need to understand getting into commercial?
So there's a lot to it. The first thing is there is a lot of a higher liability to it. Business owners have lawyers. You can't make mistakes. You can get sued in commercial a lot quicker than residential. It just is what it is. The biggest differentiating factors between the two: residential is an emotionally driven business because it deals with one of the three primary things people need in their life: food, water, shelter. Commercial is all about numbers. Does it financially make sense? They don't teach commercial real estate. You can try to take the online classes, and there are different certifications you can get. However, I personally found a mentor, and I was about 4 years into residential real estate, and I realized I wanted to do more commercial. So I found a mentor, and I still work with him to this day. We are now business partners versus him being my mentor. And it allowed me to learn from his knowledge base while doing things physically and learning through application. Because if you are the one physically doing the deal, you're going to learn, and then having a resource. With that being said, commercial is very research driven. My brain works great that way. That's just how I work. I tell people that when I'm trying to give them insight on who I am, you can't tell me what time it is. I have to know how the watch works. And that allows them to understand that I'm a little bit more analytical when it comes to things. And I'm not afraid to go out and go down rabbit holes and dig and learn on my own. I don't always have to just have a crutch of, well, this is how it's done, so forth and so on. Commercial is a very big undertaking as far as knowledge base, but so is residential. Every deal you do, you're going to learn something new and different. And I think a lot of residential agents get a little bit intimidated by it because of the amount of unknown, which there's unknown in residential just as much as commercial, but it's just different. And you're dealing with a different demographic of people. The emotional kind of tie and how heightened it is in commercial isn't really necessarily there. It's, does it financially make sense for my business? Doing both, it's looked down upon in the world of commercial. If I was to compare myself to other commercial agents, they feel like it dilutes their business to do both. That's not my mindset. My mindset is I'm going to do whatever supports my life and my business. Residential is a big factor of it because I've spent so much time creating that, and commercial is my end goal. My end goal is by the time I'm 55, I want to be 100% Monday through Friday doing 5 deals a year and have that thing that I constantly chase more time in my life. The biggest thing I always tell people when they get to a certain point in their life is you don't get paid anymore for what you can do. You get paid for what you know. And when you come to that realization that your value comes from your knowledge base, not what you can physically do, it is a turning point in life. And a lot of people have a hard time realizing that. Some people never do. They'll work till they're 70 years old doing the same thing repetitively because that is what they feel is their value in life. But your true value is what you know, not what you can do. And I don't know if that answered all of your question, but I think I got most of it.
That did. Yeah. Awesome. Anything you want to share with the audience about real estate balance, anything like that? I think I didn't ask you.
I don't know. I guess we kind of covered the whole balance thing a lot. And like I said, there's no perfect scenario. You just got to make your own. And you have to learn through trials, tribulations, errors, all of those other things that you're going to do. Don't beat yourself up as the biggest key component to real estate. We are our own worst enemy, and we will beat ourselves to death. And when you do that and you're not giving yourself positive reinforcement, you're only going to be living in a state of anxiety. Is that easy to do? No, not at all. You can do the stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself you're the best person ever, all of those things. There's a lot of things that you can try to do, but until you can truly enjoy when you're slow and work when you're busy, that is when you will find your balance. But if you are freaking out every time that you are slow in real estate and you're constantly in a state of panic and frenzy, then you're going to constantly be in a state of, you're not going to be mentally healthy when it comes to it, if that makes sense.
Yep, that does. Awesome. So last question that we ask everyone, what is either a book or a podcast or like article that someone can go and read that has helped your business?
I'm terrible. I don't read books or listen to podcasts. The only thing that I could tell you outside of that is I am the type of person that I learn from talking to the people I know and trust, and I have resources in life based upon everything. So a lot of people will find knowledge from absorbing knowledge that they read or listen to. I find my knowledge from the people I surround myself with. So if I have a question pertaining to something, whether it be my financial advisor, my best friend, my father, whatever it is, those are the people I rely on. And do I take 100% of everything everybody always tells me as what it is? No, but there's people I know that I will take their knowledge base, I will absorb it, I will put it into my own brain, spin it around, and that's how I come to my life decisions, whatever it may be, business, personal, whatever. As far as finding that one guiding light of whoever that author is that's created this structure that feels like it's going to be the magical scenario, no, I just trip through life and find the things that work for me the best by utilizing the people I know and trust.
I love that. So connections. And I think you're great at building connections and relationships with your people. And so it makes sense that that's where a lot of your knowledge has come from. And it's so important about the people that are around you.
And find something you love in the industry. When I first got in, I love disc golf. So everybody tells you to fish from 3 ponds, right? That's something you'll hear all the time. I picked one that I love, and now I sit on the board of a nonprofit. I'm the treasurer, or it's something to where when I volunteer my time and I surround myself with people, it's something I enjoy doing because it's a passion of mine. And within that passion, I find like-minded people, which inevitably helps my business because it's oriented around people. And that's just kind of, I mean, I run different things. I love barbecue, so I run things around barbecue. Find the things you love in life, surround yourself with those people, and you'll be fine.
I love that. Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on today and sharing. I think there's so many great insights that people are going to take away, along with just, again, knowing that it's not about the biggest business and the flashiest business. And yet, I mean, look at your travel wall behind you. Like, that's how many people can say they've done that. So that's amazing.
And that's key experiences in life. And thank you. I mean, it's something that I work hard at. You know, it's not something where it's just lackadaisical. It takes a lot of effort regardless of what you do.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. And if you would like to get in touch with us, if you have additional questions for Jeremy, please let us know and we would be happy to extend those questions further to him. Thank you.
Thank you.